I have to go. Hello, you're listening to Grit and Heart podcast show, The Elephant in the Room, a podcast series raising awareness of the hidden, unspoken mental fatigue, stress and anxiety that business owners and leaders don't openly talk about. I'm your host, Jackie Green, owner of Grit and Heart Coaching, and my very special guest today is Darren Roberts from Impact Training Corporation. Welcome, Darren. How are you?
Thank you, Jackie. I'm really well. Thank you. Love what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of things. Tell us about who you are. Tell us a little bit about Impact Training Corporation.
Yeah, so I'm a husband and father of two teenage kids and a golden retriever dog named Buddy, who just had her 6th birthday. And yeah, I'm the master trainer at Impact Training Corporation. So we help businesses and individuals maximize their income and give them some freedom, really through increasing their conversion and their cash flow. And we do that by focusing on sales, leadership, and communications as a combination. So we combine the structure of seamless sales systems, so a best practice, with the softer skills of behavioral styles, body language, NLP, as you're very familiar with, and effective communication. So it helps them have their customers buy quickly, but they feel like they've chosen to buy rather than, feeling like they're being sold to.
So they don't get the buyer's remorse stuff that used to be hanging around many years ago when we used to all teach sales and do stuff. So this is fantastic. Yeah. I love it. This is brilliant. So Darren, how long have you been with Impact Training for?
So I've been with 9 years, but I'm actually a student of Impact Training. So my background from a career perspective was fitness industry, and I was actually taught by Impact Training in 2002. So I've used all of our best practices right through that in my clubs and my businesses, and trained lots of my teams on it, and had the opportunity 9 years ago to start consulting with them, which was really exciting.
Fantastic. That's excellent. Well, I guess, and thank you for sharing that, because I think it's really important for the listeners to get an understanding, because I talk to business owners about this stuff, but I also talk to experts in the field like yourself. So it's all about providing tips and resources. So I guess it's time that we actually start talking about the elephant in the room, and that is those hidden and unspoken. The issues around stress and fatigue at the moment are just phenomenal, but it's not all doom and gloom, because some businesses are going gangbusters. So Absolutely. From my point of view, tell me a little bit about have you seen any experience or downturn in business with the people that you've been working with?
Yeah, certainly. As you're right, there's some that are doing really well, and some, many that are challenged at the moment. I think if you look at the last 2 and a bit years, initially it almost forced people into doing things that they probably knew they should have done anyway, but they had to do it quicker. So for instance, they had a face-to-face business, and they always knew that would be good to have a second income stream through training online or selling their products and services online. And so, lockdowns and those sort of things forced them into doing that really quickly. And then when lockdown, and by the way, that was really impressive about how quickly business owners and leaders changed and took action when they had to. Then when, lockdowns in some states reduced, they found that they continued with those other forms of income, which had their businesses being really strong. So then initially it went from just survival mode to back into the mindset probably a year and a bit after the first lockdowns of, all right, we've got to get back into business, and we've got to be thriving again rather than just surviving. But then, as you say, we're not going to be doom and gloom, but we've got to deal with the facts as well. Even today, speaking to business owners today, it's a new challenge where they were hoping, we probably all were, that 2022 was going to bring some of that freedom. But now with the Omicron, they're finding that in some states that I'm talking to today, and particularly Western Australia, by the 31st of January, for their businesses, everyone's got to be double vaccinated to enter a health club or a cafe or a restaurant or whatever. So there's one aspect with pushback from customers, but the biggest aspect they're facing is staff. Because they've got staff that say, well, some of them don't want to get vaccinated, which of course is their choice, but it means they can't be an employee of that business anymore while that's taking place. So it's just a moving scale of these different pressures and these different things to deal with. But you're right, some businesses have been absolutely thriving in that period as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because the same thing as some of the businesses I'll be talking about, one of the things I want this forum or these episodes and podcasts and conversations are about is those are the pressures that around the pressure being where the staff, because as business owners and leaders like yourself that lead teams and so forth, what we tend to do is not actually talk about the pressure that we're under, because having staff turn around and go, we love our staff, we don't hire people we don't like them, but they go, no, I'm not coming back. So all of a sudden people's values and belief structures start to kind of come to play. But as a business owner or someone that is trying to keep a business afloat as a leader, how do you manage that conversation with your staff, for one thing, is a challenge. And the other side of it is, well, what if you've got staff that have been with you for over 10 years, and then all of a sudden they go, you know what, I actually, because we're hearing a lot of people are resigning and leaving their job. How do you pay for that? Like, how do you actually manage the pressure of that or even forecast for it, I guess? Have you had any experiences with that? Businesses losing business because of staff not coming back, not just in the initial term of, I don't want to come back to the office because I'm in retail, so or because the doors are shut, but businesses behind the scenes, if you like.
Yeah, for sure. As I said, my background was fitness industry, and because of that, I still have a lot of fitness industry clients as well as many corporate clients as well. But yeah, the fitness industry was one of those where they were one of the first to get locked down and one of the last to open. And there were some people that said, all right, the fitness industry is too risky at the moment. I'm going to leave the fitness industry and go elsewhere. So, the fitness industry stood staff down in those first lockdowns. And of course, we're hoping they were going to come back. And as you say, when they had the opportunity to come back, some of them chose not to do that and to go into what they believed was a more secure industry. And of course, hospitality, travel industry, that's the same sort of situation. So yeah, they've certainly left that, and that's where those cash flow decisions are really important. I think something newer that I'm finding now is that even for people that are ready to recruit and ready to take people on, people are now reluctant to leave their jobs, where they're saying, gee, okay, do I want to go to a new job right now and into that new job, obviously with no accrued annual leave or sick leave or anything like that? And what if we go into lockdown again? I'll have no income for a period of time. Or do I stick it out in my current role, even though that person may not be particularly satisfied or happy, but they've got a bit of a backup because they have some annual leave or whatever the case might be. And, this podcast is about the elephant in the room and the mental health. And that means that there's lots and lots of employees as well as business owners that are just dragging through day to day, not really the fire in the belly or the passion about what they're doing, but they're just going in survival mode and go, oh, let's just see this thing out. I'm not willing to take the risk to have a new career or a new industry. So it is a bit of both. Some that initially change quickly, and now some, even those businesses that are ready to recruit, they're finding it hard to find the right people.
Yeah, look, and it's fatigue. I don't know about you, but I'm finding fatigue is setting in with people. We've been working from home a lot. So the hybrid, way of work is all happening for people in many of the industries. But fatigue and productivity is an interesting conversation that I want to have with you. So have you noticed that people that are still working and they're still engaged, but staff are getting quite fatigued in the sense that, oh God, I don't really want to go back to the office, and productivity is maybe had a downturn? Have you noticed that for any of your clients, that there's been a downturn in productivity with people working from home or not?
I think there's a fear that there has, certainly from business owners. There's a fear that it has because, previously they had everyone in their office or they had close contact. They were able to travel around and visit, their staff if they're in different states and all those sorts of things. And now that, many people went back to working at home or went to working at home, sometimes for the first time, that the business owner was concerned that was going to take place. Whether it is taking place or not, I'm not sure. I haven't necessarily seen that, but they're fearful of that. So I think the fix to that, the overcome for the person at home, then they need to have those boundaries. They need to have those boundaries when it's work time and when it's not work time. And, ideally not be using the same computer in their work mode than they are in their recreation mode. Make sure they're blocking out time for their exercise and reading and meditation, whatever else, gets them to being happy and content and a balance. So it needs more structure at home. And then for the owner that has staff working elsewhere, they also need more structure as well. So they need better reporting systems, not to, micromanage. And, we often use the term manage the numbers and lead the people. So we're not bashing them around the head with numbers all the time, but we need to know the numbers. The owner needs to, get regular reports, whether it's, automation or whether it's a text message at the end of the day with the numbers, that it's just expected and occurs every day, so that they know what's going on and they can check that it's true and check that it's happening. So it reduces their fear of, is this person taking the mickey by working at home? So, but again, manage the numbers and lead the people. Then the leading of the people part is that conversation about, to their staff, are they okay? What do they need from me? How did you go with achieving your targets yesterday? What can I do to help? How can we train together to make that better? So I think in both areas, more structure than probably what they had previously is important.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting what you're saying, because I'm again thinking about some of the people that I've been talking to and some of the clients I've got in that situation. You've got to have some boundaries. You've got to set that parameter without it being too rigid, and you want to make sure that you're, as an owner, for example, you're not putting boundaries that are your boundaries, and you're not imposing them on other people, because within their own home environment, they do have that flexibility that we need to give them, because they got kids working from, at school, on holidays at the moment, but they've got those added pressures. So it's working out what that finite line is between, well, is working hours now just straight 8 to 5, or do I actually, as the owner or the leader, really give a crap whether they're on there at 10 o'clock at night, and not being that rigid, but making sure, like you said, that the next day, at least the results in the reporting that is required to keep the business running happens. I guess that's...
Yeah, I agree. I think a manager or an owner that has their staff with them in normal times, then everyone is, whether it's right or wrong, it's probably wrong, is treated roughly the same from a leadership perspective. But now, more than ever before, and it should be the same in the office as well, as you know, but now more than ever before, an owner or a senior manager needs to know, what is the peak performance state of that staff member?
Yeah.
Is it that 8 till 5, or is it, I don't care when you do your work. If you prefer to do your work when the kids are in bed and it's 11 o'clock at night and you've got quiet time to bang it out, as you say, Jackie, as long as the outcome gets done, then the owner or the senior manager needs to now be comfortable going, firstly, I need to understand what is the peak performance state of each staff member, and how do I set that up so that each of my staff are performing at their best, even if it's not the same structure.
So let's take that model. What advice would you give? Because this is around, these podcasts and these conversations are for business owners, and that the fact that they actually have a tendency not to actually put their hand up and go, oh, I'm struggling, or I really need help to get more structure. Because people don't like to own up and actually say that they need some assistance in many instances. So if we take that model of they've got some flexibility, they're allowing their staff to be flexible, but they still haven't actually adjusted their own boundary model. What would you suggest? What tip would you offer to a business owner that's kind of getting stuck in their own way, if you like? Yeah. They're in their own way and they're getting stuck.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they need to understand for themselves what are the key metrics that they need to know to be comfortable that the business is moving in a direction that they're happy, or the staff are performing in a manner that they're doing. What are the key metrics that need to be reported to them? Now, it can't be 100 metrics. It's got to be just 3 to 5 metrics that are reported every day. And then it's then they can say, okay, if I get these numbers and I know they're on track, I know where the business is at. But then the question is, all right, what do I need to do to my team individually to help them achieve those numbers? And it's got to be the question. I loved asking the question in leadership certainly pre-COVID times, was what do you need to do? What is your peak performance state? How do you like to be managed? How many meetings do you like to have? How do you like to discuss those meetings? Do you like to get bang into the nuts and bolts of the business numbers, or do you like to have a bit of a chat first? Now, that we're talking about NLP and behavioral styles and all those sorts of things. But you've got to be asking each individual how that setup is going to be best for them.
Exactly. And sorry, go on.
And then the struggle for most owners is to go, okay, let me set that up for you with a backup plan. There's got to be a backup plan to say, all right, well, if you believe that's your peak performance state or how you like to be managed or the environment you like to work in to be your best, let's do that. I'm going to help you set that up. What do you need? Let's do that. Hey, by the way, it's not my normal leadership style. However, if you believe that's the way it's going to be best for you, great, let's do it. However, if it's not working, if you're not achieving the outcomes that we need, I'm going to have to revert to my normal way of leadership. So it's also, it's got a bit of backup plan there. Where an owner or a senior manager is used to dictating the terms, setting up the structure, where now I've got to have a better understanding of what each individual needs.
And what you're saying is absolutely hit it on the mark for me. My heart's going boom, boom, boom. Because it's about actually having those conversations, taking a step back from yourself, or look, and kind of going, okay, how can I talk about this in a different way? Because I don't want to put my own personal bias into the conversation that I need to have with my staff, because I don't want to lose them. I don't want to put pressure on them. I know that they're good operators. I want them to continue that way, but I have needs as well, and I need to get certain things done at a certain time frame. So you're quite right. It's, behaviorally, the other tier for a business owner right now, or a leader, is even more adjustment in their own way of their behavior and the way that they communicate. So the importance of soft skills, I think, is going to be even more emphasized. This is just my view, as we move forward. And I think more and more around, it's not all just about having Zoom, because there's going to be, I want to throw it in there at the hybrid working environment, because there's I'm doing a lot more research around this. Because I don't know about you. I mean, I've worked from home for decades, even though, you work in corporations, you do whatever. I've always had a home office. So for me, it's not been a challenge, but I have so many people that I see that really had struggled initially with that home office context. Now we've got business owners that have gone, right, I'm working from home, but now I've got this office building that I have and I want to go back to work and I want to bring my staff in. But how do you actually bring them back in? And it's reintegrating with each other, if you like. It's the soft skills of, well, do we shake hands anymore? Do we do the old elbow thing? Do we do the corridor conversations? Do the printer conversations? So it's going to, for me, I guess, what I like is the fact that there is the opportunity for us to do this and have these conversations with like yourself and other business consultants and experts in their field, but raising that flag, having the conversation about the elephant in the room, and that is, when you get back in the office, because we will get back to normal, stuff's going to happen. The boundaries will be there. We'll still put some stuff and policies in place for people that want to work from home or not. But how are you going to manage the actual reintegration of people around a boardroom?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, again, asking the team in the sense, hey, listen, we're back to whatever, 60% allowed back in the office, just as an example. We want to know, how do you want to come back? Do you want to continue to work from home as much as you can? There will be times that we have to get together face to face, and I'm really looking forward to that. However, do you prefer to work from the office or do you prefer to work from home? So it's, again, having that conversation, that open communication with your team. And some will say, oh, I've really missed the interaction and so many distractions, I want to be in the office. And some will say, I actually hate the water cooler conversations and we'll do a bit of a balance. And I think to be okay with that, again, it's all about the outcomes, right? So it's all about the productivity and the results that occur while looking after your team. But I think part of those conversations and we talk about, I mentioned manage the numbers and lead the people. Part of those KPIs, those key performance indicators that an owner needs, and the questions they need to ask, is also about their staff members' wellness and their staff members' out of work activities. So you got to know what drives your team. You got to know what lights their fire. You got to know what their passions are outside of work. And you got to make sure they're doing it. So for instance, I've made a bit of a comeback into cycling over the COVID period and those sorts of things. So, my owner, my CEO, for instance, should know how many times a week I want to train. And one of the KPIs should be, how many times a week have you trained this week, Darren?
Yeah.
And if he or she knows that that's what lights me up and that's what gives me the balance of work and exercise and enjoyment and all those sorts of things, and that's what an owner needs to ask. So it could be, having dinner with your partner. If one of your staff members, I really want to, get out there and walk on the beach with my husband, wife, partner, whatever, then a CEO or a business owner should be asking those questions. Hey, listen, when are you planning to go for that walk with this week?
Yeah, and you're
it's
right.
Not just about the business.
Putting it into the KPIs so that those things are achievable and also manage them. And isn't it really interesting, this conversation, because it's just, ringing little bells in my ear of, God, it sounds like a performance review conversation that we should have been having a very long time ago.
Yes. Yep.
With our staff, because I guess some of the things with familiarity can breed contempt. We know the expression. So I think this has given all of us as business owners and leaders in our fields the opportunity to re-engage and reinvigorate ourselves and our staff and start to have some different conversations and find out the things that we actually don't know about each other.
Absolutely.
And obviously with the boundary perspective around it. So
I think the biggest danger, Jackie, just really quickly, is the solopreneur.
Yeah.
That doesn't have an office to go back to, doesn't have a CEO to keep them accountable, that doesn't have staff that they need to keep accountable. That's the biggest danger, is that they're in their environment, home office or whatever the case might be, without those different challenges. So it just feels like every day is the same.
Yeah, the old Groundhog Day thing. You're right. It's really interesting because and again, that's where, from my business being called Grit and Heart, it's around that resilience thing. How do you actually stay on board, keep the stamina, have your stamina and keep yourself going while you still have enough empathy to go, I actually need to reach out to someone because I am on my own. And that's where stuff I've been hearing, some of the clients I've been talking to about fatigue setting in. And you can be fatigued actually doing nothing. And I don't mean that people don't do things, but they can not having that other interaction and not engaging face to face, or literally just going for a walk. I mean, I make a point of walking every day, which is, we're a bit fitness fanatic-y kind of scenario, but it's good for your mental health. So like you say, bringing in and making sure the conversations there, the boundaries are there. So question I have for you, what about you personally? I know you said that you do your cycling, but from a business point of view and as a leader, because you have staff and teams that you look after, what have been the impacts on you, if you're happy to share,
Sure.
With the past 2 years? Because obviously we've all gone through this similar scenario situation, but everyone's circumstance is different. Has there been any impact on you that you'd be willing to share, and maybe then how you overcame them, if there's been any?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, the impact on the business was that, we lost clientele in the sense that they went into lockdown and they weren't operational. So therefore they weren't able to have our training as much at the time. As you know, I speak at conferences and those sorts of things, and many conferences got locked down and stopped. Some went online, which was great. Others, just stopped. So certainly there was an income loss there. We were fortunate to have a sales authority club, which is an online training portal, and that's grown significantly through that period of time. So we were fortunate to have that. But personally, we had a lot to work through. My wife is a midwife in a hospital, so she's at the front line, if you like, and right from the start was working with COVID, ladies going into labor and those sorts of things. My daughter was just finished year 12 last year, so she did year 11 and 12, through lockdown and studying at home and all those sorts of things. For me personally, my mother went from a retirement village to hospital to a nursing home, which is happening right now. And the legislation is that we're not able to visit her. So, we do a lot of phone conversations, but that big move from her home to a hospital to a nursing home, without the family being able to go with her, it takes its toll. So for me, it's absolutely understanding what lights me up and what my passion is. And I think there's a danger to say, you got to find your passion, and then if you work your passion, you don't work a day ever. I think you can find passion in what you do, but then outside of work, career, business, then you've got to have something that is your true passion, whether that's exercise or reading or meditation or going out to dinner or walking along the beach or swimming or whatever it is. And then there's got to have structure with that. So I've put a little bit more structure into my life over that period of time. Yes, with exercise for the mental and physical health and just energy wise. And I'm fortunate that cycling either on a mountain bike is out there in the hills with the kangaroos and the koalas and the trees, or on the road, in beautiful scenic areas. So it gets me that nature connection, which is really important to me. But then the other part is making sure that, there's some strong daily routines. For me, a little bit of meditation, a bit of reading. I tend to follow the Savers best practice for the miracle morning, but to make sure that's a regular routine. And to be, we've all heard it a million times before, but it's sometimes we forget to do it in challenging times, is to feed our brains positive information. Yeah. I know. I probably for the first year of COVID, I was watching almost every news bulletin and trying to get as much information as possible. And now I'm going, oh no, I can't do that anymore. I'll find out what I need to find out, but I need to just be feeding my brain more positive information. Otherwise, it goes in the wrong direction. So, yeah. So for me, probably those three things, with a routine, morning routine, cementing that. Making sure the exercise is really strong, and then feeding my brain something more positive than is easy to fall into the trap of.
Yeah, look, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope everything is good with your mum and she's able to settle in and whatever. Hopefully it won't be long before you can actually get in to see her.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing, about your work experience and some of the personal challenges. I guess the messages I'm hearing out of this is, boundaries is something that we all need to set, that's for sure. But as a business leader, it's important to take care of yourself.
Oh, yes.
Because if you can't take care of you, then we're pretty much useless to anybody else anyway. Yeah. So it's about being okay with not being okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I'm hearing is obviously making sure you have the conversation. Don't be afraid to actually have a conversation with your staff, but asking them how they are. Setting those things in play, setting some KPIs, but in a different way. Setting it around personal stuff that is important to them. Getting to know people a little bit differently, but making sure you document it as well, obviously. Yeah. So, and not.
Yeah, I think, and we've spoken about this part before. But I think, we're far better generally at asking the question, are you okay? But I think now as a population, we need to be better at answering the question.
Yeah.
It's still too easy to go, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm good. But is that true? If it's true, great. If it's not true, then we need to be able to find the time to be able to have that conversation and be able to help. It's not a tick box exercise. I asked someone if they're okay. They said they were, great. Don't have to worry about that person ever again.
Exactly. And that's what the elephant in the room is about, isn't it? It's literally that. It's like, well, hang on a minute. So it's about having the skills and those soft skills that we talk about and the behavioural skills to be able to, we're not meant, you don't have to be a mental health expert. I mean, I do, clinical stuff and whatever as well, but it's not about that as a leader. But what it is about is really getting to know your staff and really being able to go, you're not okay.
Yeah.
So let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah. And I think the change that has happened is that even when people respond, because more and more people are, actually, I'm not so good. I'm having this trouble. I'm having this challenge. Because of the environment we're living in at the moment, and almost you probably say everyone has had a negative effect at some point over the last couple of years, is that response taken seriously. So it used to be, gee, when someone actually tells me they're not doing well, wow, okay, I really got to take that seriously. Now it's like, oh yeah, I'm actually had a bad couple of days. And then everyone goes, oh yeah, totally get it, COVID, et cetera, et cetera. They're not actually stopping and having the conversation to try and help that person, or to introduce them to someone like you who can help them professionally, those sorts of things. So it's such an interesting balance of asking the question, answering honestly if you can, but if that honest answer comes up, what do we do? Let's treat it seriously, and be able to do the best advice, or introduce them to the right person to help them.
Yeah. Look, I'm mindful of your time and my time, so I think a couple of things. What tips have you got? Any other tips and any resources or anything that you would like to be able to offer as part of the Impact Training Corporation? We could probably, I can put something on the podcast post and on websites or whatever if you have. So what have you got?
Yeah, for sure. I think it links really well into what you're doing with the elephant in the room and Grit and Heart, is that we have a 33-point scorecard for business owners and business professionals, and part of that is an assessment, their own assessment. It takes a couple of minutes. Their own assessment of where they are business wise and satisfaction and some key metrics, but very much so where they are with the lifestyle aspects of spending enough time with family, or if they had 4 weeks out of their business right now, would the business survive? Okay, so I've got some of those questions in it as well, which really gives a business owner or a professional an understanding of where are my strengths and where are the areas I need help with. So if they use that just for their own self-reflection, great, and go, okay, this is where I need to put some attention. Or if it's they want to ask you or I some questions, then of course happy to do that as well. So I'm happy to share a link to that 33-point scorecard, and your listeners are happy to jump on there and do a bit of a self-review.
Fantastic. Look, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. So what I will do, I will put something on the website. I'll put a link to it. If people want to sign up and subscribe to our newsletter, they can. I'm sure if there's any other information people want to ask me about Impact Training Corporation, let us know. Do you want to just give a plug to the website that they can go to for you?
Yes, it's impact-training.net. So they can go there, or they can check me out on YouTube, Darren Roberts, speaker and coach.
Fantastic. So thank you so much. Get in touch. It's Jackie G from Grit and Heart, www.gritandheart.com.au. And I look forward to talking with you and having all the listeners come back soon. Thank you so much for your time, Darren. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jackie. Thanks for having me on.
Lots of fun.